how come 1.4 billion people can't produce a football team? It's because 1.4 billion people are not being represented in the Indian team. It's probably 200 million people. How come in a body of footballers you don't have any fucking footballers? You have everybody else but footballers. Why is every football president being corrupt? Every president, when he's coming in, he knew he cannot change anything in Indian football. So why the hell would you come there? So we are at a place where we hit rock bottom.
Hello and welcome to the Brown Playbook. On today's episode, we have one of the most influential figures in Indian football. He's the owner of Minerva Academy, a former under-19 footballer for India himself, and a relentless advocate for change in Indian football. Ranjit Bajaj, thanks for joining us.
Fine. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Finally.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here because I've done lots of these, but I've never done one where you guys are sitting so far away from us, but still talking about us.
Absolutely.
So
Look, I think it's important to spread the things that you're speaking about pretty much everywhere to all parts of the world where our community exists. So to set the context, I think the best question to ask straight away is, where is Indian football now and why? So let's get your take on just the overall story of it and where it stands at the minute.
I really don't think it can get worse. So we are at a place where we've hit rock bottom because, see, that's a good thing because I don't think it can get worse. I mean, I really fucking hope not. Okay. Because I can't imagine what's worse than this, than going in, getting thrashed by Bangladesh instead of drawing them. That's worse than this. So I really hope it doesn't come to that. But there are some silver linings, but let's come to that the first question, that where we are right now and why we are where we are. For example, if you look at the trajectory of all the nations who are next to us, let's talk about Indonesia. They've qualified for the Under-17 World Cup. And it's not a fluke because they, by the way, lost to India Under-17 in Indonesia last year in a tournament and at home. So the difference is our Under-17 team came back to prepare for the Under-17 qualifiers and the Asian Cup by going in playing SAF, which they do every year. SAF is the South Asian Football Federation. No disrespect to them. And even I don't think if they want to get better, the SAF countries, Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan, they shouldn't be fucking playing us at all. They should be playing better nations. So when you go and keep winning SAF and they tell the coach that, this has to be won because it's a pre-done, but there's no big point because if you don't win it, then you are screwed. And if you win it, that's something which you were supposed to do anyways.
Yeah.
So how the hell is that going to get you ahead? Whereas what did Indonesia Under-17 do? They went to a European tour of, I think, 4 countries. They played 14 matches and they played top teams like Ajax and all. So age group teams, obviously. And they had a great experience and they came back and they qualified for the Under-17 World Cup. So did we have the plans to do it? Yeah, according to the Vision 2047, why the air bunnies, my wife calls them air bunnies, okay? They're not coats, they're air bunnies, okay? So see. So 2047 was a vision which was put forward by a current president saying that looking at that vision, we should qualify, if we want to be there, what he promised in 2047, we should be qualifying for the Under-17 World Cup, girls and boys, on merit. So why did he have to specify on merit? Because normally India qualifies for World Cups is by hosting them.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the other way. But he said on merit. So now, just saying things and then I've got this huge giant ass poster up in my gym. In my gym means Minerva's gym, which says just hoping for something to happen. That means you're putting a vision there. Without a plan is not a plan. It's a wish. Yeah, it's not actually a plan. So you have to. A plan has to be actually brought down from 2047, then you go 2046, 2045, 2044. You keep going down till you hit 2023, 2022 when the plan was made. So where do you need to be now if you want to be there then? So according to that plan, right now, which Indonesia has just done, we should have qualified for the Under-17 World Cup.
Yeah.
How were you gonna do that? That would have come across if we would have been in the top eight in the AFC under 16. That would have been possible that when these idiots made this plan, they should have had an under 15 or under 14 Indian team, which did every other Asian country have? Yes, they did. Were they playing under 14, 15 tournaments? Yes, they were. We were the only country who's not had an under 14, under 13, or under 15 Indian national team for the last probably 8, 10 years. And if you don't have an under 14 team, you go straight to the under 16 AFC competitions. So AFC is like you have the European competition. So you have AFC in Asia. This is for
Yeah. Yeah.
all the fans there. So the under 16s is a pathway to the World Cup, to the under 17 World Cup. So the top four, the same way the top four in Asia, the top four get there. And it's not a 64 team World Cup yet, nor is it a 48 World Cup, 48 team World Cup. And we had a very good chance in qualifying because we had a great team. But when you have great teams and you know the art of screwing up a great team, or you know how to make sure you fuck up in your scouting, because uh, you just can't see what everyone else can see, then you're not a scout, you're blind. And that's what unfortunately Indian scouts are. That's because, and it's because they're not scouts. For example, in England, in the FA, there you have special courses in scouting, you have licenses in scouting. You can't just say I'm a coach and I'm a scout. It's not the fucking same thing. A scout is somebody totally different. He doesn't know jack shit about how to make a player better. His job is to find the potential in a player and the talent currently available in that player, not how to make it better. That's the
Yeah.
coach's job. And all
Oh,
the scouts in India are coaches. All. There's not
wow.
even one professional scout. So anyone who the president or the secretary knows is a scout. Why? It's a paying position. So if you can't adjust them anywhere else, so just might as well make them a scout. And that's the thing for every position in India. For example, our president has been making his friends the national team coaches. And we had taken a decision. I was in the COA, this is the Committee of Administrators. That's why India got banned by FIFA. Not because of me, because I
Yeah.
was there. I was there
Don't worry,
getting
we know
the
you're fighting against all
yeah,
of this, mate. Don't
yeah,
worry, don't
getting
worry.
the
We've read the
elections,
stories.
yeah, getting the elections conducted and doing all that shit. And they thought it's outside interference, but we needed outside interference, like we do right now as well.
Yeah.
Um, so when you have this entire system which has been corrupted, and it's been corrupted over a year, not 1 year, 2 years, it's been corrupted over 5 decades, then it's not going to be an overnight solution ever, because it's so deep rooted. And that's what I thought. Till 2019, I was given a chance to help in, apparently, they were going to come up with a new constitution because the new sports code had come in. And the constitution was given to this gentleman called Qureshi, who was the chief election commissioner of India. He was responsible for the elections of India. And a Supreme Court justice called Justice Dave. And Bhaskar Ganguly, who was the ex-captain of India as well. And then one of the greatest journalists, Novi Kapadia, and me, we were the five people, the two people we were brought on as specialists to know about the game. And these three gentlemen, obviously, Bhaskar knew about it as well. But we made the entire constitution, and we started off with the premise that our starting point of the constitution was, what if the biggest crook or the worst corrupt guy in the whole world comes to power? Even he shouldn't be able to do it. So that's our starting point. Okay, that's how badly we've
That's
been burned.
crazy.
Okay,
That's
so that's where we
crazy.
started from. And the new constitution is so strict about this. In fact, it's so transparent, it's so accountable, and it's accountable to who? It's accountable to the fans. And the whole constitution is made for the players, because our argument was, so that's why the state FAs and AIFF has been fighting tooth and nail. They are paying £11,000 a day to their lawyers, and there are three of them representing them. And it's not their money, it's our money, which is
Yeah.
should have been spent on youth development, on the women's football, on the boys young grassroots football, and it's being spent on this shit.
And
So
this is just to put a bit of context on it,
yeah.
because the three of us, I mean, you especially, but me and Ryan, having prepared a little bit for this conversation, we're a bit clued in. But I think it's important to give the viewers a little bit of context as to what
Okay.
all of the
So
things that you've
so
spoken
like
about
I
has
said,
meant.
yeah. So like I said, our football was really in a bad way.
Hmm.
And that was because there was no elections happening, and this was in 2019. Praful Patel, who was the ex-Union Minister of India for Civil Aviation, he was the president for over 15 years without having an election happen, which is the case in every state federation. In fact, every state FA here is passed on to everyone's son like it's a part of your property inheritance. So I die and my son becomes the next president, and that's what's happening in most of the state associations. So when the whole world thinks, and especially you guys, how come 1.4 billion people can't produce
Yes.
a football team? Is because 1.4 billion people are not being represented in the Indian team. It's probably 200 million people, and out of those 200 million people, how many have access to football fields or footballs? Probably 2 million, and I'm not kidding about the number. For
Yeah.
example, Japan has more goalkeeping coaches than we have A, B, C, D, and pro licensed coaches. That's how far back we are. They have more goalkeeping coaches than us, than all our coaches put together. So, looking at that, coming to that, so we got Praful Patel out because I filed a case in the Supreme Court saying that this is not right. It's not a democratically elected president. We need to have immediate elections. Supreme Court agreed with me, and we got elections. But we also put it in the new constitution that in a body of lawyers, you can't have police officers. In a body of police officers, you can't have doctors. Now, how come in a body of footballers, you don't have any fucking footballers? You have everybody else but footballers. So players have to be an integral part of it. Clubs have to have a vote. Referees commission has to have a vote. The even the coaches have to have a vote. And because the real stakeholders are the people I just mentioned, everything else is around it. So the
Yeah.
main thing are the players, because the players are the ones who know the problems. You put a guy who doesn't know about football. Yes, he maybe know. You put a guy for administration, that's a different thing. You put an expert for that. But for knowing about football problems, you can't put someone who's last year been in the Kabaddi Federation and then last to last year in the fucking Hockey Federation, because that's what he does. And he's there for the wrong reasons. Now, when the court saw all this shit happen, instead of just taking those guys out, they said, okay, fine, we're going to get a new body, but we're going to get a new constitution. That was made. It's taken us 6 years to get to this point, which is today, which is the 22nd. Tomorrow, we are going to be, it's probably 25 minutes left. It almost finished today, but the court ran out of time, and it's going to finish tomorrow. The court is going to reserve the orders, which they normally do in the Supreme Court, and the order is going to be pronounced in 10 days. The entire case was based on sports code, which said you cannot be in football administration above 70, which is, I think, a very, very reasonable number because you've got 90-year-olds still there. and then and then you got five, if you got one state association who have got 20 vice presidents. What the fuck do you need 20 vice presidents for? And then you've got a state association who was going to lose the election, so they had 40 voting clubs as members, so they delisted 20 of them and they replaced them with something known as life members. That means you just go on and I'm a life member. What the fuck does that mean? I'm a life member. I'm here till I die. And what do? I vote. So he got 20 of his life members who are his son, his uncle, his chacha, his taya, everybody in there.
No.
They all voted for him and he's the president for the 14th time. So one of them. So to
And
make
that
sure
that
this shit,
sorry, that translates to me to basically I want to keep control and I'm self-interested.
exactly,
There's no football interest or
obviously,
bringing the
man.
game along.
So someone who's coming along for this, and you know that's his motive, you know he's corrupt. Why is every football president being corrupt? Because that's what the system is. Why? Because still now, none of the state FAs were under the center. What does that mean? That means you got money from AIFF every year to run your state activities, but you were not accountable or answerable to them. That means you could have your own fucking rules, you could do fuck all, but still you had to be paid that money. So states like UP, like I was talking about 2 million, states like UP who have a population of over 300 million, okay, and 300 million people apparently don't have a club. Apparently nobody plays football there. Apparently, but are there clubs on the grounds? Yes, man, there are over 1,000 clubs in UP. because if anywhere the people are there, it's going to be football, and they love football. But because there's been the money's been coming in, but there's been no league, senior league, junior league, women's league, nothing there. How the hell is UP going to have football? So 300 million gone. Like that, Madhya Pradesh has never had a league. Jammu Kashmir's never had a league. Then you have Odisha, who's never had a league. Jharkhand, who's never had a league. Chhattisgarh never had a league. Bihar, who's never had a league. Haryana, who's never had a league. Himachal Pradesh has never had a league. This is Nakli League, whatever they have.
Yeah, yeah.
So all these things put together, you have only states like what? One Goa, Delhi, Calcutta, by the way, not West Bengal. People keep on saying West Bengal. No, it's not West Bengal. What about Siliguri? What about Darjeeling? What about 24th North Paraganas, the other places of Bengal? It's only Calcutta. You think there are no footballers anywhere else? There's one city. Same in Maharashtra, by the way. It's Mumbai. So who gets to play in the second division, third division from Mumbai? Only the Mumbai clubs. But Mumbai is a city. What about Kolhapur? Oh my God, the amount of people who are crazy in that little city. You have 50,000 people watching a college match. 50,000 people. That's the craze there. But Pune, oh my God, nobody from there. Why? Because it's not part of WIFA, which is the Western India Football Association, where Mr. Praful Patel is there for the last 45 years as the president. 40 years. It's unbelievable. And he just won the
That's
elections again right now. So
crazy.
that
Oh my
constitution makes
goodness.
sure that all the state FAs are answerable. They will only get their funds only and until they do their primary duty. They have only one duty: to arrange football leagues for 6 months for boys, girls between the ages of 11, then 13, 15, 17, 19, and onwards, and senior teams. Plus, have your state teams together for nationals and send the state teams there. That's your only job. If you don't organize these leagues, we will disaffiliate you the next very year. Now, what was happening? Why did I say every president has to be corrupt? Because every president, when he's coming in, he knew he cannot change anything in Indian football. So why the hell would you come there? You would. The only reason you can stay there is if you let the states do whatever they're doing and keep giving them money. So basically, if he's somebody who's there who knows that these are not these guys have never done anything for the last 50 years, no players, no tournaments. When I say no tournaments, bro, when they say, for example, XYZ state FA, and you go and try to look for the office, there is no office. It's a fake address. That's how bad it is.
So,
Then they
Ranjit, just a
mention
quick
20 clubs.
question
Yeah.
of what you've said so far. So you said that obviously footballers need to be in charge of this for it to have good outcomes for football. Completely makes sense. Is the current president of AIFF not a footballer? So I know
Yeah.
Praful
So,
Patel was
yeah.
before. So what's happened with him? Because I
Yeah.
wasn't
So,
quite
what
sure
happened
if
was,
he's had any
yeah.
impact.
No, you're totally right. That's what I was really happy about. And if you see my behavior towards him in the first 6 months, people were starting asking questions that what has this guy done? Why is Ranjit Bajaj supporting this guy so much? Because I thought, oh fuck, man, I made a change. I really thought I was that stupid. I said, oh my god, I made a change, and we've got a footballer as a president. So
Yeah.
he's apparently played for India. Why I say apparently is because Baiching Bhutia came out and said that this guy's never played any international match for India, a
Ah.
AFC FIFA official match. So earlier, what used to happen was there was no actual AIFF. There was an IFA in Calcutta. If you've seen the movie Maidan,
Yes.
and they
Yeah.
used to
Yeah.
have, yeah. So, I mean, by the way, whatever you see in Maidan is not an exaggeration. It's even worse now. Oh God. Okay, they used to have these different Indian teams playing for these tours which are coming in, and they were not official matches. So he's not even played one FIFA or AFC official match for India. So
Okay.
yes, I have also played for India under 19, but at least I have played an official match in the Asian School Games, and at least that's recorded. There is no record to be found. Yes, he's played for India because he's got photos, but no one seems to remember that. Now, let's come to how his club career was. It wasn't that great. But at least see, understand, he was a footballer. He knew what the problems of football were. He showed us a great vision. But when he came in, the kind of thing started coming out about him. And it was not from people who hated him. It was from people who were his best friends and were leaving the federation one by one after being fired by him. So it started with the general secretary Shaji, who was his greatest supporter, and he revealed how corrupt this guy is. And obviously, no one believed him because he was the first one, because everyone said, oh, he's saying it because he's just been fired. But he was right. Then he did that to the national team coach, Igor Stimac. Doesn't matter what
Yeah.
people say about him. I love the guy because India's never won 3 titles in 1 year and 4 titles in 12, for 15 months. And I've never had 4 full houses in 4 different cities of India all over singing Vande Mataram, like we, and cricket fans copying what we were doing in football. So it was amazing to see. And then because of one bad run, you fire him, but you don't tell the whole world that you promised him that for the Asian Cup, you'll get him a chartered plane. And he was waiting for the chartered plane, and he was told at 2 a.m. that you have to board a flight, normal flight at 6 a.m. So get your team ready. So because of that, 5 people didn't take the first flight. And they had an 18-hour fucking layover in some place. So you had the Indian team sleeping on the floors because he wanted to save money, forget about a charter flight. And then from there again, when they reached 5 hours before the Asian Cup starting match. And 4 of the players didn't even reach. They reached for the second match. No one
Oh
knows
my
about it.
God.
So you basically send them for a boxing match for representing the nation after tying their hands behind their back. That's what you've done. And then you say, oh my God, how did they lose to a draw with Afghanistan? He should be fired. Afghanistan was there, specially chosen the venue because it was at high altitude and they were there for 1.5 months training there. Going and playing 4 hours before is like shooting yourself in the head. High altitude, you require acclimatization, you require more red blood cells production, and that only happens when you spend more time in that place. There's no other way other than
And it's,
obviously
I feel
steroids.
like it's slight disrespect to like Afghanistan. So correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've seen, Afghanistan chose to leave SAF, what you were mentioning earlier. Am I right in saying that? And
Yeah,
to
yeah,
compete against more
yeah.
competitive nations.
Exactly what I just,
So
I
you've
was
got to give them
saying
a bit
that.
more respect to
No, no,
someone
I
who's
was
playing at a
saying
better
that.
level.
See, no, no, no. See, I will give them respect where respect is deserved. If they were better than us, yes,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they were not better. The federation was better than us
yeah.
because made the right decisions for the team. I'm saying that we Indians are as good as Afghanistan's, if not
100%. Yeah,
better.
yeah, yeah.
If our federation was not corrupt and they didn't make decisions only thinking about themselves, because these guys had enough money. For example, there's an ethics commission who's supposed to be totally unbiased because it's supposed to be independent judicial body. It decides on only ethical stuff. And complaints were sent against the president and the secretary. And ethical commissions, the judge is a Supreme Court judge, ex-judge, very respected. And he told them that, listen, I've not been paid for 6 months. I'm not going to come and sit and decide anything else unless you pay me. And these guys didn't pay him for another 4 months because they had 3 complaints which were pending against them. So he was signing checks to his own judge. And because he was not signing them, he was making sure that this is not happening. He was going to stand in an election, this Kalyan Chaube in Bengal for BJP. He lost again. This is the third election he's lost. And when he was standing for he was standing for election. He actually called up the opposition fucking candidate and told him that, listen, you drop out and I'll offer you the post of vice president in AIFF. And the recording, that guy recorded his
Oh
voice and it went
no.
out. It went out. Okay. And if you tell me later, I'll send that recording to you and you can play it out right here for all your
Sure,
Bengali
yeah.
friends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you can play it out. So imagine these are the kind of things which have been talked to. Then we bid for the Asian Cup. And suddenly we came to know we are withdrawing. Why? Because Saudi Arabia told us to do so. The reason was that this fucker went to Saudi Arabia. I don't know what happened in Saudi Arabia. Suddenly there were only 2 bidders, Saudi Arabia and us, and we withdrew. And what
Yeah.
did we get in return? They said we're going to have the Santosh Trophy finals there. So we thought, okay, crazy man. Maybe Ronaldo's going to come and watch the match or some shit like that. But what happened was we played in an empty stadium and we came to know later we paid for it. So we paid 12 crore rupees for 2 state teams to go there and play. 12 crores. We don't spend more than our budget for Santosh Trophy is 1.5 crores. So we spent 12 crores for doing that. So there was some hanky panky going on because you don't withdraw bids like that, especially going to Saudi Arabia. And now this gentleman, then after that, they came up with a statement to say the why, according to our Vision 2047, AFF has decided that we have to focus on development of our youth and development of our players and not waste money in hosting such big tournaments unless and until we have a chance to win them. And we said, wow. And then this year he's applied for the next Asian Cup. And there are
Yeah, I've
9 other
seen that they
countries.
put him
Yeah.
on the
So I
bid.
was thinking, oh my God, he's going to take money from 9 countries now.
No, so that's I think the main point, the main theme is due to what you just said about Kalen Chorby and the corruption is back again to regulation, reform, transparency, which is why the constitution is so important because anything falls back on that. So whether you have an ex-footballer or not, if they get forward into corruption, it's never going to change without strict regulation. But two things that I picked up on that were really key were the lack of planning. So as you said about 2047, you have to reverse engineer to get to that point. So under 15, under 17. But then one thing I really want to know is that everyone always says, oh, they lack infrastructure. Why can't they do it? But I want to go back to like, we use our English perspective. You play in schools, you play in Sunday league. If you're good enough, you go to a better Sunday league team and you may go into academy. So let's go back there, firstly with facilities, but as you talked about scouts. So how do these scouts, or from the very grassroots level up, get picked? If they're not in like a private academy, what's their introduction to the game in India?
Introduction is probably a five-a-side local football team which you play on the street with, which I think is a great thing. That, when you go out to the streets, you find everywhere street cricket. And that's why
Yeah,
we have such a big base.
Yeah,
When that happens, that it all becomes street football, like it is in France, or cage football there, or in Brazil when you play cement football or beach football. Everywhere you go, it's a culture. And then if it becomes your pastime and your favorite hobby, it'll become a good sport as well. But as a hobby, if kids are not playing it, or if just to play having fun, they're not playing it. What are they doing? They're playing cricket for having fun. That's why we have a world team capable of having three different teams and all three being world champions, because our grassroots is amazing. No one's asking, which used to be asking 10 years ago, 20 years ago, where's the next Tendulkar or the Dhoni? Or we don't ask that question anymore, where's the next Virat Kohli? Because there are hundreds of them.
yeah,
yeah,
And that's what we're asking there. But here, instead of developing our grassroots, we've screwed ourselves up. Coming to the point of the infrastructure, we have great infrastructure comparable to the Premier League teams, but only for a select few. That means for the ISL clubs. But if the ISL club players train on that surface or that stuff, will they get better? No, they won't. They won't. If you get better by playing, people say, oh my God, you get better by playing with these better foreigners. No, you don't. Otherwise, everybody in the Spanish league would be Messi, because Messi's been playing there for 20 years. So after a certain age, the improvements you make are very minute. The maximum improvement you can make is till the age of 12, because of a protein in your body called myelin. Myelin is a protein which is produced maximum till the age of 12. It's responsible for basically your quick memory or your twitch muscles, the quick reaction muscles. Now, if I tell you today, can I make you a left-hander from a right-hander, or if from a right-hander to a left-hander within 3 months? No, as good. It's not possible. But if I do that on a 5-year-old kid, I can do that in 3 months. He'll be as good, because his connections have not formed. So what happens in India is, by the time they come to a professional or a good academy, the good ones, the connections are all formed and they're horrible. You can't unbreak them. That is
yeah,
why we do nothing else but play long ball football. That's why.
yeah,
Okay, so why is Anwar Ali so great, or Jackson so great, or Harmi Pam so great compared to the other Indian centre backs or Sandesh Jingan? Because in my academy, you're not allowed to hit the ball long from the age of 11, even if you're a centre back. Doesn't matter if you concede. That gets them into the habit of doing it. So people say about
mm,
decision making. No, it's not decision making. You don't actually make decisions in football. I don't agree with it. Because the amount of time you have when the ball is coming at that speed, there's no decisions involved. It's automatic. Tuck, 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 tuck. It's no decisions.
yeah,
So it's your natural body taking over. If you've done that a million times, it'll come naturally to you. You won't do something for the first time ever on the football field in the match. It's
yeah.
done
That's
like
football IQ and practice, right?
exactly.
You got to
That
practice those
happens
things.
if you have a certain number of, the 10,000 hour rule. The 10,000 hour rule is done too late, because by the time they complete 10,000 hours, they're 17 or 16. And there's no
Yeah,
point, because the 5,000 hours after the age of 14 have been, or 13 have been wasted. So by the age of Lamine Yamal, he's in the Spanish team,
yeah,
we don't even get a chance to go anywhere near the senior team. Are we good enough? Yes, we are. For example, at Minerva, we put our money where our mouth is, that we were champions of the I League when Mohun Bagan, East Bengal, Bangalore FC all were playing the top league. So we went to the AFC Cup, AFC Champions League and AFC Cup. In the AFC Cup, I had this 15-and-a-half-year-old boy called Toiba, and I put him on and he scored. And he was a defensive midfielder, and he was playing his position. He went up and scored. He became the youngest ever scorer and still is in the AFC competitions ever in the history. And where's the boy right now? He's now 20. He's playing for Odisha FC.